After the success of the Bitcoin ETF, BlackRock wants to tokenize ETFs. Blockchain is the way of the future, and more financial companies are realizing this. Larry Fink has told us where he thinks these markets are going. Know some new and up-to-date things about this. We also have a new video clip of the founder of Ondo talking about Ondo Ripple with the Bankless show. This is also something we're going to talk about. At the end, we have some other news and information about XRP that ties this all together. This is why I wanted to look at some of these institutional DTCC, Euro, Clear, Stream, JazzDeck, and Japanese financial market infrastructures. I want to know where they stand with moving to blockchain and what kind of schedule we can expect going forward. Then Bank XRP put up this Bloomberg story. You won't be able to see it if you don't have Bloomberg, but I did look it up to see what this means and what's going on here. BlackRock is working hard on plans to turn ETFs into tokens. They want to build on the institutional trust that was built when Bitcoin ETFs launched successfully in 2024 and 2025. The goal of this strategic push is to use blockchain technology for traditional financial instruments. To make them easier to get, ETFs will be offered as digital tokens. Investors want openness and speed. After the Bitcoin ETF did well and saw a lot of money come in and market excitement in 2025, BlackRock's tokenization plan was confirmed. In 2024, the company launched BillDuel, a tokenized liquidity fund that is now a multi-billion-dollar product that works on the blockchain. This gave the company experience. This shows that both the technology and the institutions are ready for bigger tokenized projects. BlackRock was trying by putting money into the deal to see how easy it was and to find out what problems came up so they could fix them in the future. This is because when they start putting real money into it, they'll want to be able to do it on a large scale very quickly. Also, I learned a few more things like how much money are we talking about? I think that's what you're thinking because that's what I'm thinking. So BlackRock might be able to tokenize assets worth trillions of dollars. By 2030, they think they'll be able to do this with assets worth between $3.5 and $10 trillion. Do you know when we'll see these predictions of $16 trillion by 2030? Do you still think that number will be 16 if BlackRock tokenizes 10 trillion by 2030? You think there will only be 6 people in the rest of the market? I think that the faster we can get this done by regulating it and getting governments around the world to work together, the faster we'll be able to get hundreds of trillions of dollars in tokenized value. I really think this will still take at least 10 to 15 years, though. It does say 18.9 trillion by 2033. If global tokenization of real-world assets speeds up as planned, the value of these tokenized assets will end up on public and private blockchains, where they are given, changed, and settled as digital assets. Tokens are making markets more global and open. Just talk about the $11.6 trillion that is being managed. Their build-up fund is between $2.5 billion and $2.9 billion right now, and it's growing quickly every month. Analysts in the field say that all types of assets, such as metals, government bonds, private equity, and real estate stocks, could eventually be turned into tokens with a global market worth $18.9 trillion. There are a lot of really cool things going on with BlackRock. I think they'll be working with some of the biggest names in the business, like Ondo and maybe even Ripple, right? I guess Safe. This man is the father of Ondo, a plan that we can fall for how to make goods available to everyone without any permissions and transferable from peer to peer. People outside of crypto are starting to understand that possibility and power when it comes. I'm going to show you some of the things he talked about here. Some of the biggest security settlement infrastructure in the world is centralized, like the DTCC in the US, Euroclear in Europe, Clearstream in Germany and Luxembourg, and JazzDeck, that's in Japan, and each is important for settling trillions of dollars worth of daily securities deals so that the world can work together and become more modern. Today, the best blockchain-based solutions are enterprise systems like IBM's Hyperledger Fabric and tokenized infrastructure led by CSDs working with big providers. These offer scalable settlement that is easy for regulators to understand and finalize in real time. So it does talk a little about this being a major national security settlements infrastructure. The DTCC is known to us. I just looked up a lot of information to show you that the NASDAQ's clearing goes through the DTC, which is a branch of the DTCC and the NSCC. I did some really cool research for that. In the past few days, I made 2 movies. If you really want to understand all of this better, watch those videos. I'm not going to explain it all here. Euroclear talks about Belgium Pan-European, Clearstream, Germany, Luxembourg, ASIC, Switzerland, LCH, UK, Euronext, Central Securities Depositories, and other EU countries. Japan is talked about here. We already talked about that one. China is talked about here. It stands for Japan Securities Depository Center. China is also home to China Clear, China Central Depository, and Clearing China Bond. Australia's ASX is related to CSD. There are a lot of acronyms here. Euroclear Bank and Clearstream are two international banks. Remember this clip of Graham talking about something? Let me play the clip. Everything that's ever been out there is in the 1.4 quadrillion market. You can see that all of those types of assets are already starting to move onto the blockchain. And the ease with which people are interested in money market funds, tokenized treasuries, and other similar instruments, as well as the support for stablecoins. When you talk about replacing cash, I think of DTCC, Euroclear, and Clearstream. It only takes one of them to go fully digital, and that's trillions of dollars worth of assets. We might be able to see that going up to tens of trillions of dollars on its own. Yes. Also, remember that it's 1.4 quadrillion. One of these guys only needs to switch to fully native digitally for the other ones to be put at a disadvantage. So the whole machinery of the world, right? Of all these different ones, I'm sure there are some here that I didn't talk about in other places. I'm truly sorry. There may be a lot on this list. I want to show you that all of this machinery is being moved to blockchain. Everything. It's either 1.4 quadrillion or 2 quadrillion, so ignore the difference. This is how much worth will actually be added to these chains. There's a good chance that this value will be split between Ethereum, XRP, HBR, and other cryptocurrencies. Chainlink will play a big part in a lot of this, well linking old systems to new rails and keeping that data up to date. I want to say that we are going faster than people think to this, though. When you own XRP, HMR, or XLM, you are basically buying a piece of the future financial system. This is where a lot of this value will live and settle down. That's why I tried to tell you as much as I could, talk on this channel about what's coming up, because making the right choices now could help you and your family for years to come. That's why this is such an important time for both of us. Also, I'm glad you're here with me right now. That being said, I did ask if there were any links between JazzDeck, Japan Ripple, and XRP that I hadn't seen before. It also says that the interfaces don't have any direct public links to each other. It does say that the Bank of Japan, JazzDeck, Ripple, and Japan's settlements environment all allow D. Our main idea about what the future of capital markets will be like is this. This slide really shows where we are in our journey. The blue line shows where we are right now and what we're doing in the market. And the purple really does represent those goods and services that are almost ready to be delivered. Along with our main and secondary market, custody brokerage, and tokenization engine, we're also working on other parts of our service, such as our digital CSD through our Monta subsidiary, which will be live soon. We're putting out new goods and lending money. There are also e-money and fund management services that offer this real institutional grade service. No one on the call today will be surprised by this picture. It really tries to take advantage of the huge market chance. Very fuzzy. I want to talk about assets worth more than 1,700 trillion that are going to become digital. Let's do this quickly. Apple, real estate companies, and private equity firms. Gold, real money, the stock market, global debt, the derivatives market, global real estate, art, racehorses, shopping fees, and other things. Putting everything in the world into digital form, including standard markets, the use of cryptocurrencies, and the tokenization of real-world assets. Here is the size of the market that can be reached, and this is where we see a huge chance to be involved. It's really getting exciting now. Of course, this movie is also here. Do you remember when people told you that Bitcoin is the technology of the future and that everything will run on it? You know, they were lying, right? In fact, this is the 2024 meeting of the World Economic Forum at Davos. And it says right here that history will show that the fact that Bitcoin was its first use case was bad for blockchain. The noise around blockchain is something I think you talked about earlier. Some times say that history will probably say that the first one wasn't good for blockchain. The Bitcoin use case stood out to me because I think it has made a lot of talk about the technology, and it is important to look at the technology. We've gone one step further. Because of this, the central bankers are not looking at Bitcoin to solve any large-scale problems. It has made a lot of noise about the technology, and it is important to look at the technology. Jack Mallers and Michael Saylor say that Bitcoin is a digital store of value. That's it. There's nothing else. You did great, Bitcoin Maxis. You are now in a spot where little kids can play. But the adults in the room, the chain links, H bars, XLMs, and ripples, are solving big problems. I'm sorry.